The bulb over Dad's workbench hummed like it was remembering him. Saturday light came through the side window in a stripe across the concrete. I set 3 flattened boxes on the floor, tore a strip of masking tape with my teeth, and wrote labels with a black Sharpie. Keep, donate, asked Mara. The white chest freezer waited under the window, clean as ever, a magnetized notepad stuck to the lid. At the top he had written "Fix Next." I clicked my pen and copied the title onto my own pad, then breathed in the mix that always lived here. Cedar shavings and motor oil. A coffee tin rattled when I moved it. Inside, screws winked like dull stars. I poured them into a tray, sorted by size, and wiped the dust with an old shop rag that still carried his scent. The blue pegboard above the bench held empty hooks, each a little question mark. I traced their pattern, remembering where the hammer had hung, where the level had rested as a rule. The calendar by the light switch had curled at the edges. July of the year we were kinder to ourselves. Someone, him, had taped paper clips to the back. I eased the brittle page off its nail and felt the board behind it shift. A shy swing I hadn't expected. I stilled my hand and listened. Somewhere inside the wall, something metal answered with a faint, deliberate rattle. I set the calendar on the freezer, lifted my phone, and swept a beam along the pegboard. Lines in the paint didn't match the studs I knew. I pressed my palm flat, and the work light hummed on. My fingers found cold steel where plaster should have been. I steadied the pegboard and eased out 3 screws, one by one. The board came away like a page. Behind it, flush between studs, sat a neat square door, painted the same beige as the wall. A dial, a key slot, and a faint brand stamp waited there, quiet as breath. I set the board down and knelt. On the concrete sat a dusty red Folgers can, masking tape collar marked keys in Dad's block letters. I lifted the lid. Metal chattered. The smell of old pocket lint rose up. Inside lay loose keys, a few on tags, most plain, all mixed like buttons from many coats. A tiny brass key on a blue tag marked S sat near the top. It felt promising. I tried it, gentle, no forcing. It stopped short with a polite click and would go no farther. "Not you," I said, and set it on the workbench beside the calendar I'd moved. I leaned in and copied the shallow letters along the hinge, brand name, partial model, onto my notepad under Fix Next. I added today's date. Then I took photos. The door straight on, the dial and keyway, the can and the blue tag. The habit steadied me. Name it, write it, picture it. I stood and framed one more shot. The small door against the pale wall. The hum of the light made a halo. I opened a new text to Mara and attached the photo. Found this. Call. I watched the little blue bar finish its run, wiped my hands on the rag, and the phone began to ring. "Please don't pry it open," Mara said. "Not today." Her voice was small through my phone on speaker, balanced on a paint-stained stool by the vise. In her kitchen, a spoon clinked. A child laughed. A cupboard thudded. I stared at the loosened seam and nodded. "You're right," I said. "No prying, no guessing. We'll go slow." Her breathing settled, and mine did too. "Okay," she said. "We call someone and make a list." I lifted Dad's magnet-creased Fix Next list from the chest freezer and read it to her. Hose bib leak, porch light flicker, latch-on shed, lawnmower blade. Eventually, we laughed at that last line, the ink thinning like he sighed while writing it. "Remember his pocket locks?" I said, touching a tiny brass loop on a nail. "The tackle box, the red lunch pail, the coffee tin." Mara hummed. "He liked a click and a key," she said. "He liked things to wait." "I'll call Mr. Hale about the will, and whatever might be in here," I said. "Martin Hale," she corrected, softer now. "Yes, please call, and send photos. Start an inventory." I pulled a pad toward me. On it, I wrote labels on yellow sticky notes, screws, hinges, paints, cords, and stuck them to each box. Then, I eased the pegboard back and ran blue painter's tape along the seam. It felt like tucking a blanket over a sleeping secret. When I slid open the drawer beside the bench, something white caught, an envelope, my name in his blocky letters. "If found, call Martin Hale, Dad's lawyer." Like breadcrumbs, I tucked it into my canvas tote and reached for my phone. The letter was short. "Use your head. Call Hale." The paper was crisp, a single line above his neat signature, and a business card slid out behind it. "Martin Hale, Estate Law." Raised letters you could feel with a thumb. It felt like Dad set a hand on my shoulder. I propped my phone on the paint-stained stool and opened the camera. Click for the safe, the pegboard seam, the little tin stamped keys. I took one more of the envelope and card, then sat on the step and composed an email. Subject: garage find at my father's home. I wrote the address, explained what we'd found, and asked for guidance. I attached the photos, read the message aloud once, then pressed send. The quiet hummed, fridge motor, a leaf blower, my own breath settling. I gathered the loose keys onto the workbench and photographed them in a neat row, numbers up. Within an hour, my phone buzzed. Hale's assistant wrote kindly and straight, Monday, 10 a.m. Please bring will, any keys, and identification. A line of calm instructions. It felt like stepping off grass onto a good stone path. I slid the note, the business card, keys, and my notebook into a clear zip bag. With a black Sharpie, I lettered SAFE on the front. I locked the side door, turned the deadbolt twice, and checked the handle anyway. On the interior door, I stuck a yellow square. Do not open. Wait for Hale. The labeled bag went by my purse on the hall table. Monday came cool and bright through the trees, and I walked into a tidy lobby that smelled of paper and coffee. I set the clear zip bag on my knees while Mr. Hale adjusted the brass lamp on his desk. Certificates lined the wall in neat frames. A rubber plant with glossy leaves stood by the window. He opened a red-tabbed file, labeled Ribera, Thomas, Whelan Senora and Ribera. He said, steady as a metronome, by the will, you are the owner of the home and its contents. He let the word rest between us. Lawful words carry weight. We'll carry them carefully. He turned the page and pointed with a capped pen. Probate is in order. The court has accepted the will. You are named as executrix and residuary beneficiary. This clause gives you the house and what's in it. The paper made a dry whisper as he laid it flat. Your care for your father is noted in his letter to the will. My hands warmed around the zip bag. Owner feels, large eyes said. He nodded. It often does. Authority doesn't cancel tenderness. Be transparent with your sister. Share inventories. Ask questions before you act. I showed him the photos, the safe, the pegboard seam, the tin-marked keys. He studied them, then smiled. You did right not to pry. No forced entry. We'll open it properly. The printer stirred softly. He slid across a checklist. Photos, item descriptions, estimated values, and an inventory template with lines. Fill what you can, we'll add later. He called to his assistant and scheduled a licensed locksmith and a police officer to witness the opening. Thursday 10, he confirmed, handing me a copy. I tucked the folder under my arm and that word into my pocket as the calendar invite chimed. Residuary felt like sand in my mouth until Mr. Hale translated it to what's left. He leaned back, thoughtful. Probate is the court's way of closing a book, he said. We turn every page, pay the bookmarks and notes, the debts and specific gifts, and what's left at the back belongs per the residuary clause. He wrote a small arrow on his legal pad and pointed to a yellow sticky on his lamp that said transparency, asterisk. I can hold that, I murmured. Good. Share a copy of the clause with your sister. Invite her to the safe opening. Keep photos and a simple list. An open hand makes hard words lighter. He slid a new sheet toward me. Chain of custody, he said, then softened his tone. It just means we note where an item goes. Bag things, label them, date them, and say who had them. You and I will sign off on anything removed. And if we find papers, I asked. Some have their own lanes, he said. Vehicle titles, deeds, stock certificates. Bring them here. We'll file what the court needs. His assistant cracked the door. There's been a cancellation, she said. The locksmith and Officer Bell can do Wednesday at 10. Mr. Hale looked at me. I nodded. Wednesday works. Then we'll meet at the house early, he said. You bring the keys and your ID. I'll bring the red file. I left with forms clipped inside a manila folder. At home, my printer hummed, spitting clean pages. I texted Mara, the clause, and the new appointment time, then set the stack beside my clear bag and checked my ink for tomorrow's labels. The garage looked gentler once. I started tagging stories instead of stuff. I set a roll of blue painter's tape and yellow tags on the bench, then opened the side door. Concrete cool under my shoes. The light hummed. I ran blue tape along the shelf edges like underlining. Yellow tags swung from twine on each bin. Tools, donate, photos, family, manuals, scan. Cords became cables, test, jars, small parts. Keep on the folding table. I wiped a clean square and set my clipboard with the inventory forms. Mr. Hale printed. Line 1. Shelves A, labeled, values, unknown. Line 2, in careful letters, wall safe, behind pegboard, sealed. Under that, I left space for whatever name it would tell us. I clicked open the small black cash box, checked the little key, and taped a label across the lid. If I found loose rings, bills, or a watch, they would rest there until we signed them out. I set the phone tripod facing the table for a quiet time lapse, just facts and hands. I took photos of the setup and sent them to Mara. Wednesday at 10, I typed, Mr. Hale, locksmith, and an officer, want to come. Her bubbles arrived. Yes, I'll get help with school pickup. Proud of you for waiting. The pegboard stayed taped, the blue line smooth as a closed eyelid. I breathed with it, slow. The safe sat quiet and square. A character off stage, learning its lines. By Tuesday evening, my phone chimed. Confirmation from the locksmith, a scan of his license attached, plus a liability form to acknowledge tools, limits, and witnesses. I saved it, printed one copy, and set it on the clipboard. I slept with Dad's note on my nightstand like a small lighthouse. The house settled after dishes. The kettle sighed once more. I made chamomile and carried the mug to the dresser, where tomorrow's pile waited. On the runner, I set the clear zip bag marked, safe, keys, business card, Mr. Hale's forms, and placed 2 pens on top like guardrails. The checklist opened to the first box, photo, label, location. I read it like a recipe. My calendar blinked Wednesday, 10 a.m., and the reminder chimed, polite as a tap. I reread the locksmith's email and liability form, signed where it asked, clipped it to the stack. My ID and copy of the will slid into the folder. I wrote Officer Bell on a sticky note and tucked it beside keys. I drafted a group text to Mara and our cousin Jonah. Safe opening Wednesday at 10 with Mr. Hale, locksmith, and an officer. Can you come? I added 2 photos of the setup and the clause. Mara replied, yes, thank you. Jonah sent a thumbs up. I'll be the quiet set of eyes. I plugged in my phone and a spare battery, coiled the cord, and checked that the tripod plate was in my bag. I printed one more inventory sheet, slid it under the clip, and smoothed the cash box label. Then I sat on the bed, held the envelope, and whispered, okay, I'm using my head. Morning came with birds that knew nothing of laws or locks. I set an early alarm, filled a small thermos, and with the selfie bag by my purse, locked my door and drove toward the house to meet them. The locksmith spun the dial like it was a language he could still hear, his marked Van Idle. Officer Bell stood by the folding table, clipboard ready, the blue tape on the pegboard neat as a seam. Mr. Hale set his red file on the bench and nodded to me. The locksmith showed his card and license. I compared it to the scan and liability form. Permission to proceed, he asked. Yes, I said. And Officer Bell wrote the time and purpose in tidy block letters. Mara and Jonah signed as witnesses. Pens clicking like small metronomes. I peeled the painter's tape in one slow line while the locksmith steadied the peg. We lifted it together and leaned it against the wall. The safe face waited. Dial.com. Metal cool as a coin. He set a light, a stethoscope-like pickup, and a fiber optic scope with a thin eye. Non-destructive. He murmured for the record. The dial turned, paused, backed up, moved again. His fingers listened. Click, whisper, settle. Officer Bell logged each step. Mr. Hale watched with his hands folded. I could hear the hum of the garage light and my own breath. There was a soft, certain give. The latch released, and the door side open, without fuss. We all leaned in, careful not to touch until photos. Inside sat a stack of envelopes, a black ledger, a velvet ring box, a tin of keys, and a manila folder with my name. Mara handed me the clipboard. I read each label aloud, took a photo, and wrote the words that would keep us honest. Camera ready, pen steady. I reached for the first envelope. My name, in Dad's block letters, stole my breath more than any fortune could. Manila soft at the edges, the tab inked, for my girl. I slid a finger under the flap, careful not to tear. A typed page slid out, weighty, with his inked signature. Read, Mara asked. I nodded and cleared my throat carefully. First, thank you for looking after an old man. It began. You were my legs, and sometimes my good sense. The words were simple. He wrote that the house and what sat in it were left to me by the will, and that he trusted my judgment. If you find the CD certificates and the deed, please use them for what feels right. I read. Don't fight. If you can, do some good. My eyes stung. Jonah shifted, quiet as a fence post. He mentioned a small lot he never developed behind the hardware store near the creek, and a wish he'd spoken at the kitchen table. Help somebody who works with their hands. Keep the chains sharp. I laughed through tears. His advice sounded like a tool on the bench. I set the page flat on the folding table so everyone could see it without touching. Mr. Hale nodded. Officer Bell noted the time. Letter read aloud. The locksmith stepped back and gave us that small circle of air a family needs. Let's document, I said. I took a photo of the letter and signature, then slipped it into a protector. The envelope went beside it, and Dad's voice felt near but not heavy. I breathed, reached into the safe again, and lifted the stack of documents he had pointed toward. The certificates felt heavier than paper. Responsibility pressed between blue borders. I set 3 on the table, the bank's watermark catching the light. Each one named him. Then that crisp line, Pod A. Rivera, maturity dates, numbers, a neat signature I knew as well as my own. Beside them, a folded deed. I eased it open. Warranty deed across the top. The notary sealed golden as a coin. Lot 17, Maple Grove. I read, a square of land I'd never set foot on. Jonah opened the black ledger. Tidy columns told a plain story. Loans taken, balances dwindling, each last figure zeroed out. I felt my shoulders loosen. The velvet ring box held a simple gold signet, his initials raised like a quiet hello. It was warm from the safe, weighty as a Sunday handshake. I photographed it in my palm, then slid it into a labeled bag. Ring TR safe. Witnessed, a Broski lay at the back, a paper tag tied through its hole. Bank. I lifted it with tweezers and photographed the tag front and back. I read each item aloud. Officer Bell initialed every line on the inventory. Mara stood close enough to squeeze my hand. Jonah steadied the light and kept his questions in his pocket. Mr. Hale had stepped out for court, telling me to call if we found titled things. I dialed from the workbench. He answered on the second ring, listened, then said, take the pod certificates and the deed to the bank and recorder with ID and the death certificate. Keep the rings secured. Make an appointment about the box. I wrote it down and looked at the clock. Bank first, recorder next, Mr. Hale said on speaker. And bring the safe deposit key. He had me repeat the list. ID will, death certificate, 3 CDs with pod, deed, key. We'll verify the deed at the recorder. After that, I'd like an appraiser to value tools and any collectibles. Officer Bell signed his log, capped his pen, and gave us a respectful nod. Good work today. The locksmith reset the dial, logged his method on the liability form, and covered the seam with blue tape. Non-destructive entry complete, he said, closing his case. I slid Dad's letter into a clear sleeve like a recipe card, and set it front and center in a red folder labeled Bank Recorder. The certificates, deed, and key went behind it, each in its own protector. I added a checklist to the pocket dot at the bench. I emailed the banker's assistant, subject pod certificates from Thomas Rivera. I attached scans and asked for a Wednesday afternoon slot. Her reply came, 3:15 p.m., bring originals. I booked the county recorder for Thursday at 9:30 and put the address under the appointment. Mr. Hale texted an appraiser's name. I messaged him photos of the tool wall and cash box and asked for Friday morning. His reply dinged, confirmed for 10. He'd bring forms. We closed the safe, turned out the light, and locked the side door. I thanked the room under my breath for holding what it held. Mara squeezed my arm and went to meet the school bus. Jonah jingled my keys. I'll ride along, he said. I was grateful for company as we headed to the bank. The banker read the certificates, then looked me in the eye and said, we honor payable-on-death designations. The glass room kept the branch sounds soft, printers purring. Jonah sat beside me with a nod. My folder lay open between us. Ms. Chen checked my driver's license, the will, and the death certificate, then slid each back with a small smile. These match, she said, tapping the raised seal. Payable-on-death means your father named you to receive these funds directly. They don't pass through probate. We'll make this straightforward. She asked how I wanted the proceeds. I asked for a cashier's check in time to think about where it should land. She printed a disclosure, had me sign, and the printer whispered out a blue and white check that felt firmer than paper. We moved to the vault for the box. A ledger waited under a brass lamp. I signed my name and today's date. Miss Chen turned her long key. I turned Dad's small one with the bank tag, and there were 2 quiet clicks. Inside the box, for photo prints of the garage, a typed slip that read Lot 17 taxes paid. and a crisp list of tool serial numbers, each line neat as fence boards. We noted each item for the record and returned them to the box. Back at the table, she handed me a card. If you'd like to create something in his name, our estate planning desk can help set parameters and keep it transparent. We left with the cashier's check in my folder and the card in my wallet. The doors whooshed, and responsibility felt like a shape I could hold today. The clerk slid the deed under the glass and said, "We can confirm chain of title and taxes in 5 minutes." The recorder's office smelled like paper and patience. I set Dad's red folder on the counter and passed my ID through the slot. "I'm Sam," he said, scanning the warranty deed for Lot 17, Maple Grove. "Taxes are current," he said. "No liens. Deed recorded properly." He leaned closer to the screen. "There's an old utility easement along the east edge. Nothing alarming." He printed a parcel map and a property card, then circled the little square that was ours. "Chain of title looks fine. If you want the cleanest record, your attorney can ask the probate judge to confirm title. It's called a quiet title order. Simple when everyone agrees." He slid a docket sheet under the glass and circled to dates, upcoming probate mornings. "Mr. Hale will know which is best." He stamped the receipt with today's date and returned my deed and copies. I wrote the parcel number on my notepad, underlined it, and breathed out. "Thank you," I said. "Happy to help," Sam replied, friendly as a neighbor over a fence. "Email is on the card if you need PDFs." Outside, the sun made the paper warm in my hands. I sat on the stone bench by the planter and called Mr. Hale. He picked up. I read him the parcel number and the note about the easement. "Good," he said. "I'll add a quiet title request to the probate hearing." Email scans of Sam's prints. "I'll send them now," I said, smoothing the map as a breeze lifted the corner. "Tools tell stories," the appraiser said, flipping open a little notebook. Leela wore shoes and a magnifier on a chain. She looked at the blue tape lines and tags and smiled at the order. She started at the drill press. "Walker Turner, late 40s, she murmured, running the belt to feel the hum. "Well cared for." She photographed the motor, then wrote a number. "Fair market value is what a willing buyer pays on a normal day," she said. "Not insurance, not sentimental, real world." I showed her a spiral notebook under the bench. Dad's dates and notes marched, oiled, blades sharpened, bearings replaced. "This helps," she said, turning gently, with clean hands. "Buyers trust maintenance." She lifted a hand plane, checked the throat, read the stamp with her loop. "Stanley No. 5, she said. "Light surface rust." The vice earned a nod. She measured the ladder, checked marks on chisels, and lined up sockets like spoons for photos. The ring came next. She set it on gray felt, weighed it, and looked at the initials. "Solid 14 karat, she said. "Modest resale as jewelry. More if kept as family. Meaning adds value. We can't price." I felt that in my chest. I wrote in pencil beside each line on the inventory. Drill press, estimate, planes, lot, ring, hold, vice, ladders, hardware by weight. "A few would do well at a specialty auction," she said. "I'll email a list with comps." She packed camera and notebook. "You've honored the space," she said at the door. I walked her out. As her hatchback pulled away, Mara's minivan turned in. She stepped out with Dad's letter folded, her face softer, ready to talk. The porch boards were warm under our feet, and the ice clinked in our glasses. I set Dad's letter in its plastic sleeve between us on the small table and opened the red folder. "Start with the bank," Mara asked. Ms. Chen confirmed. "The CDs are pod to me," I said. "They pass outside probate. I took a cashier's check, so nothing moves until we talk." "And the land?" Sam, at the recorder, said. "The Lot 17 deed is valid. Taxes paid. There's an old easement. Mr. Hale will ask for a quiet title order." She nodded, watching me. I turned the clipboard so she could see the inventory. Lila's penciled values sat like soft numbers, not verdicts. The drill press has a market. A few hand planes might do well at a specialty auction. The ring is modest in money, strong in meaning. Mara traced a line with her finger. "I don't want to fight," she said. "I want to understand." "Me too," I said. Dad used the word owner, and it felt heavy. "I'm proposing this. We share any auction proceeds. We donate some tools in his name to a training shop, something that helps people who work with their hands. We keep the ring in the family, if that's all right." Her shoulders lowered. "Owner stung at first," she admitted, almost smiling. His letter sanded it down. "We write it down," I added. "A mediator, neutral. We invite Jonah, so there's another witness." Please, she said. That evening I emailed the mediation center, copied Mara and Jonah, and a Monday afternoon slot pinged back. We'd bring pens, copies, and the letter for clear ground. Pastor Alina set out mugs and said, "Let's start with what your father asked." Mint rose from the kettle, her kitchen held quiet, washer clicking, a clock soft on the wall. Sunlight fell across the table. I unfolded Dad's letter on the table's oilcloth. She read it twice, finger resting at the line about doing some good. "I knew him from the tool drive at the fair," she said. "He gave away wrenches." She set a small plate of crackers between us. "Two, owner is the word that won't sit down." I said, "You are owner by law," she answered, "and steward by love. Ownership can be service." She poured tea and slid a mug toward me. "Stewardship sounds like tending. You tend people and promises." We talked about plain steps. "Write what you and Mara agree to," she said. "Dates, amounts, who decides. Clarity is kindness. Give in the open. Keep copies in your red folder. And mark his memory with something simple," she added. "A morning at the creek lot. A bench. Stories told out loud." I told her about the idea shaping in my chest, a small scholarship for trade school students who work with their hands. Ms. Chen at the bank offered their estate planning desk. I said, I could start small. Her eyes warmed. "That sounds like him," she said. "One scholarship, well told, can be a bridge." She rested her palm on mine, and blessed wisdom and peace. I breathed easier. "Go to the mediator," she said. "Not because you distrust, but because you love." I rinsed our mugs, snapped a photo by the kettle, and texted Mara, one word, "Ready." "We'll write what you mean, and mean what you write," the mediator said. Carla popped a blue marker and wrote 3 headings on the whiteboard: assets, wishes, plan. The room was small and bright. Jonah sat near the door, steady. "Assets," he prompted. I named what we knew: 3 bank CDs with pot to me, appraised tools, and a few collectibles for auction. Dad's ring, lot 17, Maple Grove. I slid copies of the bank confirmation and deed to her. Carla printed each item and nodded. "Wishes." Mara lifted Dad's letter. "No surprises," she said. "A keepsake for each sibling, and a way to remember him together." "My wishes match his," I said. "Transparency, photos and lists. Donate tools to a program that trains people to work with their hands. Explore a small scholarship in his name." Carla switched to green for plan. "Let's turn wishes into steps." We agreed to auction select collector items, with proceeds tracked in a shared spreadsheet. We listed the donation, naming 2 local trade programs to contact. We wrote that each sibling could choose 1 sentimental item from a photographed album. In turn, I would explore the scholarship with the bank's estate planning desk and report back. Communication was underlined, a running email thread with updates, copies, and dates, including Jonah. Carla typed as we spoke, then read aloud the memorandum of understanding. "I'll email the draft tonight," she said. "Sign after the court hearing." She said we'd each get a PDF tonight and reply with any edits by Friday. That felt clear. In the hallway, my phone buzzed, a voicemail from my father's brother. I breathed once before listening. "I don't owe anybody anything," my uncle said. "That was between brothers." His voice came rough through the phone. The ledger lay open, a penciled IOU with his name, a checkmark, and Dad's word, "paid." I set my finger on the date like an anchor. "Ray," I said softly, "I'm not collecting. Dad marked it paid years ago. I'm just keeping the record clean for the file." The kettle clicked off. I let it be. "If it's all right, I'll note that we confirmed and leave it there." He blew out a breath. He knew I made it right. Then the edge returned. "I don't like my name in papers." "Understood," I said. "The page stays private. It only sits with the will and inventory. No gossip, no surprises." The line quieted. A bird tapped the window. "You always were the organized one," he said, a little wry. "Your dad trusted you." "I'm trying to honor that," I answered. "And to keep peace." He cleared his throat. "Do what you're gonna do." The call ended with a click that sounded tired, not angry. I wrote today's date in the margin and added a small note. "Spoke with Ray. Confirmed Dad's paid notation. No action needed." I took a photo for the file, slid the ledger into a clear sleeve, and tucked it back into the safe bag. Not every knot needs untying, I gathered. The bank key and red folder. Ms. Chen had offered help making clean copies and updating the box inventory. I locked the door. breathed once for calm, and drove toward the branch to open the safe deposit box again with careful hands. The safe deposit box gave us pictures of Dad smiling beside strangers holding certificates. Ms. Chen laid a square of green felt on the table and slid the prints across it, corners neat. Dad wore his old work shirt. The students wore hope in their faces. On the back of one, in his block letters, tuition paid, anonymous. Beneath the photos sat a single typed page titled, Scholarship Idea, if funds allow. It was simple and dad-like. Help someone learning a trade, keep paperwork light. Let instructors nominate, pay for tools or tuition, no speeches. I traced the title with one finger and felt my throat tighten. Ms. Chen excused herself and returned with a man in a navy tie. "This is Mr. Patel from our estate planning desk," she said. He shook my hand and looked at the photos before he spoke. "A named fund at the Community College Foundation would honor this," he said. "It's straightforward. You set the purpose, skilled trades, tools, and tuition. Outline basic criteria, and let the foundation manage applications and disbursements. They provide annual reports, so your family sees what happened. It keeps oversight clear, and the burden off you." "That sounds like him," I said. The felt soft under my palm. "Quiet help, clean records. We can start small," he added. "Decide an amount after your court hearing. We'll draft language you can show your sister in council." I booked a meeting with him for the week after the probate date. He slid his card into my folder. Ms. Chen and I returned the photos and the typed page to the box. 2 keys, turning, 2 clicks. In the lobby, I emailed Mr. Hale's scans and confirmed the quiet title request. My calendar chimed gently, and we set the next appointment. The courtroom held benches and the smell of lemon polish. I sat at the table beside Mr. Hale, his red file angled toward the microphone. Mara took the row behind me, a presence. The clerk called the case, and the judge looked up, calm eyes over glasses. Mr. Hale stood. "Estate of Thomas Rivera, Your Honor. Applicant Andrea Rivera, executrix." He handed the will, the acceptance, and an inventory summary. The judge flipped pages with care. "Were statutory notices sent to interested parties?" "Yes, Your Honor," Mr. Hale said. "Filed with proofs of service. Any objections?" "None filed." The judge nodded. "Thank you. Anything else for the record?" Mr. Hale gestured to my folder. The safe in the decedent's garage was opened by a licensed locksmith with a police witness. Contents photographed and inventoried. We also verified 3 payable-on-death certificates at the bank. Those passed outside probate. He slid a copy of the residuary clause forward. The judge read, then met my eyes. "Ms. Rivera, by this clause, the residence and its contents pass to you as residuary beneficiary. Thank you for proceeding carefully and transparently." Knot in my chest loosened. I said, "Yes, Your Honor." Mara's hand touched my shoulder. "Steady." Mr. Hale added. "We request a brief hearing on a quiet title order confirming Lot 17, Maple Grove." "We'll take that next," the judge said, glancing to the clerk. "Please prepare the motion packet. I'll hear it on the next slot." The clerk's stapler clicked. Papers slid into a blue jacket. We sat back as the calendar rolled forward, glasses shining on the bench, the clock ticking us toward the next small step. "Lot Desacechi," the judge read. "Title confirmed in the estate and by distribution to Ms. Rivera." His pen moved, a precise line, then a firm dot. Mr. Hale slid the parcel map and the tax receipt across easement along the east edge. He said. The judge nodded. "Noted on the order." He handed the sign sheet to the clerk. "Record this," he said. The clerk rose, quiet, blue jacket under his arm. I realized my shoulders had been holding the morning up like a beam. We waited while the printer warmed. The clerk returned with a stack and a metal seal. Clack, the stamp pressed a gold circle. Another clack for the certified copy. He slid one through the slot, toward me. "Certified," he said. "Date and time in red." "Thank you," I said. He smiled, the way someone does when they like their job. Mr. Hale tucked the court's original back into the file and tapped the tab. "We'll get the recorder's confirmation electronically," he murmured. "But this is your proof to carry." I held the paper by its edges, the seal catching the fluorescent light, and thought of the little square on the map becoming a place, a tree, maybe, a bench, a Saturday with sandwiches and a story. Outside, air smelled like hot concrete and cut grass. Mara squeezed my elbow, then checked the time. "Carla?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Let's keep our hands matching our words." Mr. Hale shook our hands, promised to email the PDF, and headed for the elevator. We walked toward the car, the certified copy safe in my red folder, and turned the wheels toward Carla's office. "We can create a named scholarship with simple guardrails," Mr. Patel said. We sat in the same glass room as before, a pot of coffee, breathing steam, the branch soft around us. Ms. Chen brought in a tray with pens and a clean stack of letterhead. He outlined the bones, a fund housed at the Community College Foundation. A clear name and purpose, simple criteria, annual reporting so we could see what our promise did. "They handle applications and record keeping," he said. "You set the guardrails. We shepherd the paperwork." He typed as I spoke. "Thomas Rivera Hands and Heart Scholarship," I said, and the letters looked right on the screen. Purpose: support students in skilled trades. Use first-year tools, tuition, or books. Criteria: instructor nomination, financial need, good standing. Keep it modest and human, he added. I slid Dad's photo to the corner of the table. We talked numbers without hard edges. I named an initial amount from the CDs that felt generous and wise, with more after the auction settles. He proposed holding proceeds in a sabbatical, then transferring to the foundation in one clean step. Ms. Chen noted dates. Mr. Patel showed me the board calendar and circled their next meeting. He printed a letter of intent on letterhead and read it aloud. I signed on the line that steadied my hand. He handed me a folder with timelines, contacts, and a draft agreement on a thumb drive. Miss Chen tucked in her card. My phone pinged with calendar invites. Then I drove to the garage to sort donations for the visit. The trade school would send a van early next week. The shop smelled like sawdust and hope. Mara and I rolled to gray carts through the double doors, each topped with labeled toolboxes and a coil of extension cord I couldn't quite let go of yet. A woman in safety glasses waved us in. "I'm Ms. Alvarez," she said over the hum of a planer. "Thank you for coming." Students in coveralls drifted over, hands clean but eager, and took corners of the carts like it was a relay. We parked beside a long bench scored with old projects. I lifted the lids one by one. Sockets, metric, and standard, I read. Chisels, sharpened, squares, safety glasses. Yellow tags fluttered. My handwriting felt shy in this bright room. A student with a smudge on his cheek held up a tape measure. "Real Stanley," he said, smiling without quite meeting my eyes. Mara nudged my arm. "Ms. Alvarez pointed toward a corkboard. Scholarships were pinned there with neat tacks. She wrote Dad's scholarship on a fresh card, Thomas Rivera Hands and Heart Scholarship, and added a small note, pending. The letters looked steady. I slid a laminated card from my folder and taped it near the shop clock, in memory of Thomas Rivera. "Keep the chains sharp." Heads nodded. It fit, the way a tool fits your hand when it's been used well. "Your father came once to free a stuck guard," Ms. Alvarez said, left before anyone could thank him. We took photos for the foundation file. Students, carts, the corkboard. Hands waved as we left. In the truck, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Leela. Auction date confirmed. Her message said, warm and businesslike. Another right step. The auctioneer spoke softly, and the numbers felt like goodbyes with receipts. The room was small, chairs in tidy rows, a clock ticking above the door. Lila slid into the seat beside me and placed the statement template on her clipboard. No chanting, just blot numbers, descriptions, and a rhythm you could breathe with. The drill press drew 3 bidders, all with careful hands. When the hobbyist in the denim shirt won, he mouthed, "I'll use it," and I believed him. The planes traveled as a set. The Vice found a shop. Everything we'd chosen to move on found its next work. Lila handed me a printed statement of sale with hammer prices, buyer fees, and our totals net of commission. "Clear and clean," she said. I signed, and she folded her copy into a manila envelope for my file. The check felt warm. Paper often does when it matters. I walked it straight to the bank, Jonah opening doors. Ms. Chen greeted us and asked, "To the fund." "To the fund," I said. She made 2 copies of the receipt, tucked one in my folder, and stamped the other for the foundation packet. I scanned everything at the branch computer and emailed PDFs to Mara and Jonah with a short note and a photo of the ledger page. At home, I wrote the entry by hand, date, auction proceeds deposited, receipt attached. It felt like honesty you could hold. I sent a simple text, "Done," and a heart. Mara replied with a calendar screenshot. "Saturday, barbecue, family. We'll read the letter," she wrote. "Bring the long matches, please." I smiled and added charcoal to my list. We strung fairy lights from the maple to the fence and unfolded chairs on the patchy grass. The grill snapped inside. Jonah tended it. Cousins carried bowls through the screen door. Mrs. Patel from next door set down brownies and kissed my cheek. Plates filled, voices softened. We took turns. He taught me lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, Mara said, holding up a screwdriver from the keepsake basket. Our neighbor told how Dad checked her tires every first frost. Jonah remembered the time the porch light flickered and Dad fixed the whole switch instead of replacing the bulb. I opened the plastic sleeve and read the letter in pieces, pauses where he would have made them. Do some good, I read, and the quiet felt like a warm quilt around the table. People nodded. A little one chased bubbles near our feet, giggling like a kettle. Mara walked the basket around. Inside were pencils sharp as memories, pocket screwdrivers, a tiny level, a folded shop rag. Take one, she said. Use it. Hands reached and then lingered, choosing, remembering. I slipped the signet ring against my palm, its warmth familiar now. We ate simple food. We let tears come without apology and laughed at coffee that could strip paint. Someone put on a song Dad liked from the old radio. The lights blinked as moths visited. When the plates were stacked and the yard felt content, people hugged and went home in pairs. I washed the last mug, set the letter by the window, and set the sapling in the trunk for morning. I tucked Dad's ring into my pocket and laid out the small shovel by the door. The lot was smaller than I expected, and perfect. I parked by the curb where wildflowers feathered the chain link, and a power line whispered at the edge. The sun sat easy. Somewhere, a mower droned and stopped. On the hood, I unfolded the parcel map, found the easement line, and traced it with my finger. The square of earth felt like a page waiting for ink. I carried the sapling and a small trowel from Dad's bench through the gate and stood a moment to listen. Sparrows, a dog 2 blocks over, my own breathmaking room. I chose a sunny patch just off the easement and set the pot down. The soil gave kindly. I cut a neat circle, lifted a plug, and dug a deeper nest, the trowel bright against the dark earth. The smell was clean and familiar. I tipped the sapling free, teased its roots, and settled it into place. With both palms, I pressed the soil back, firm around the trunk the way Dad taught. No air gaps, no rush. I poured water from the bottle in my bag and watched it sink. From my tote, I pulled a weatherproof tube with a copy of the letter folded inside, the words that had steered us. I tucked it near the roots and covered it, not to hide, but to root. I found a flat stone and set it at the base like a quiet marker. Then, I leaned on the shovel and breathed until the world matched my chest. Dirt under my nails. I drove home slow, the safe, empty road in the trunk, ready to come inside and hold new things. The safe looked smaller on my hallway rug, like a secret that had told its story. I set it on a square of Mom's quilt, blue triangles pointing inward. Sun fell down the stairwell and made the dial shine like a small coin. A locksmith came, kind and efficient, to change the combination and reset the lock. He showed me the new numbers on a card, then shredded the card and laughed softly. Memorize with your fingers, he said, letting me spin and stop until the sound felt right. When he left, the house exhaled. I opened the door and placed what mattered inside, not as treasure but as reference. Dad's letter went first in a fireproof sleeve, edges smooth, signature dark. The memorandum of understanding followed, signed and stamped at his kitchen table. I added a clean USB with scans of photos, lists, and the court orders. The ring has a felt slot for nights I wanted to rest while I sleep. A red folder labeled Garage Inventory, Final slid beside them. Tabs, neat, dates clear. I tested the handle, closed the door, spun the dial, and felt the click settle. It felt like keeping promises in a small metal room that didn't mind being quiet. I wrote the combination in a sealed envelope to store in my safe deposit box. Then, I sat at my desk by the window with a stack of cream cards. I pulled a pen with a blue cap from the cup and breathed once for calm. I turned the first card over and wrote a name that deserved careful thanks. The addresses waited in a neat list on my phone. I angled the lamp and began with Mr. Hale, steady and kind. Gratitude is a kind of bookkeeping too. I set out cream stationery, lined envelopes, and a sheet of stamps with small boats. The pen with the blue cap behaved like it knew names mattered. Dear Mr. Hale, I wrote first, thank you for steady guidance, and for saying owner like a legal fact and steward like a blessing. I mentioned the order, the map, and the feeling of walking out into dusk lighter. Ms. Chen received thanks for clear steps and kind patience, and I tucked a copy of the scholarship notice with her card behind it, Mr. Patel's note named the fund and the guardrails, and promised a photo. When the first student bought tools, Carla's card held gratitude for turning talk into a plan we could carry together. Pastor Elena's letters smelled faintly of mint as I described how the word steward had settled my heart. I thanked Leela for respecting tools and speaking gently about value, and I slipped in a snapshot of the drill press's new owner. Officer Bell's note said simply that his calm presence made a hard morning feel lawful and safe. Sam at the recorder got a thank you for neighborly help and a copy of the little map with a penciled heart by lot 17. Ms. Alvarez received a photo of the tool carts and a promise to visit when the first award letter went up on the corkboard, stacked the addressed envelopes, smoothed stamps, and made one tidy rubber-banded bundle. On top, I set a note to Mara and Jonah. Thank you for being the circle that held. Tomorrow I meet Mr. Hale to close file. Mr. Hale slid a final receipt across the desk and said, "Stewardship well done." His office looked the way it did the first day. Brass lamp, rubber plant, certificates lined straight. He opened the red file and walked through the stack like pages in a lived book. Order admitting will, letters of appointment, inventory summary, photos, locksmith report, police witness log, bank confirmations, the quiet title order with its gold seal. He set the memorandum of understanding on top and the scholarship letter beside it. "You honored notice and transparency," he said. "You kept chain of custody and shared information appropriately. The court's orders are complete for now. The bank records show proper handling of POD funds and transfers to the foundation." He returned the originals to me, one neat packet, and kept his copies in the file. He took a black pen and wrote closed on the red tab in careful letters. He said, "Owner is the lawful word. You have behaved as a steward by love. Keep going like this." We shook hands. He held the door like a friend and like counsel. In the elevator, the folder felt lighter than the weight of its papers. Dusk had slipped over the parking lot, and the evening air smelled faintly of cut grass. I drove home with the windows cracked and the radio low, a song he used to hum. The porch light came on as if it knew my name, and the house welcomed me. I set the packet on the hall table and touched the safe, deeply grateful. I hung up my keys and let the day end on its own. That night, the house made its soft sounds, and I let them be. I rinsed a mug, boiled water, and steeped chamomile until the kitchen smelled like honey. I carried the cup to the hall and set Dad's ring on the safe to warm under the lamplight on the bookshelf. His photo leaned in its small frame, him squinting into morning with that dented mug. I touched the glass, then circled the scholarship's first award month on the paper calendar by the phone. A little star went in the corner. We would be ready when they were. I opened the window, a hand's width, and listened to crickets rehearse and a train hum across town. A car door closed, and laughter drifted up the street like a kite returning to earth. The day's papers were already filed. The safe held what it should, and my shoulders rested lower. I stood in the doorway, cup warm in my hands, and said thank you out loud, soft enough for the room, for the letter, for the locks, for the people who helped us carry this well. The air moved across the sill and touched my face the way a hand presses a blessing. I washed the mug, turned the calendar to tomorrow, and clicked off lights one by one. In the bedroom, I slid the window shade down and let the quiet take the last watch. The night held steady. I slept without lists for the first time in weeks, the safe breathing like a small, patient stove in the hall. Morning would come when it wanted. Nothing was waiting to be pried open anymore. I slept deeply.